Chapter 3:1 An Air Force Base in New York burst. Moreover, it happens to be the air base where General Ross is located, and it is also the base where these agents will be escorted. However, it just exploded. Originally, Ross was still mocking the bombing of the headquarters of the Strategic Science Corps, but now it's his turn to be bombed. It's so immortal, it directly bombed the entire arsenal? Even with that, half of the aircraft in the entire airbase were bombed. The direct economic loss is tens of billions of dollars? This time, Rose couldn't laugh anymore. The Strategic Science Corps only bombed a building, and there were not many casualties. But this time at the Air Force Base, the casualties were aside, but the losses were too great. Sir, the identity of the other party has been found. Wilson stopped suddenly. Say. Anger flickered in Rose's eyes as he was rushing to the base, but Wilson raised his head and said, "Yes, it's Hydra." What? Rose's steps stopped suddenly, turning around and staring at Wilson. You mean, the other party is Hydra? Yes, this is the news that I just got. We intercepted a piece of information that sent out the address of our base. It was an Hydra agent lurking at the Air Force Base, with the rank of colonel. This person is a spy on the Hydra list. Definitely, they didn't know that the Hydra list in hand was actually forged by Li Wei. Hydra. Rose gritted his teeth, but his heart was depressed and wanted to die. Ross knows this agent. Because he has seen the list, he originally wanted to conceal the fact that the military has an Hydra agent, so as to obtain greater benefits from the government. However, it is completely different now. Because of their cover, a military base was devastated. Now they are the same as the government. Most of the government's Hydra agents took control, and they only lost one building. The military lost an entire military base. They no longer have any advantages. Even more, when the government negotiates, they will undoubtedly fall into an absolute disadvantage. Not only will it not be profitable, but I am afraid that a huge price will be paid to stop the damn group of politicians. Damn it, Hydra is so powerful. Rose was a little silent, and he looked at the dilapidated Air Force Base with a gloomy expression. Finally, I had the opportunity to make a great achievement, which could turn the entire Strategic Science Corps into a nail for the military. This can be used to check and balance the increasingly lawless politicians, and if done well, he can even get promoted again. But now, there is nothing left. General Ross, Lieutenant General Shelton is waiting for you in the command center. A soldier from the United States saluted Ross and reported, "He told me to wait here." General Rose nodded, although the anger in his heart still existed. However, he was shocked by the scene before him. On the airstrip, there were more than 200 planes densely packed, but at the moment there were only more than 20 lonely planes left, most of which were left with only the wreckage. The battle damage rate reached 9 out of 10. The United States Army is running around everywhere. They are busy fighting the fire. Originally, he was already shocked at the gate of the base, but when he saw the loss in the base, he suddenly felt an urge to faint. He only realized that he had thought too little. This time the base was really ruined? The loss was too great to be estimated. If he can't release people before returning to the military base, I'm afraid the government will attack the military base. General Rose looked a little confused, and looked at the warehouse not far away. In other words, it is the wreckage of the former warehouse. Now, there was only a piece of scorched ash, the huge amounts of deep pit in the center, and the dense cracked ground nearby. Ross, you are finally back. In the command center, when Rose walked in, he found out that his boss, Sheldon at the moment, was waiting for him at the moment. His frowning expression completely lost his former spirited appearance. Sheldon is not very old, he is already a lieutenant general in his 50s. Even if it is changed to Rose, he himself is not sure to become a lieutenant general within 10 years. Don't think that the major general to the lieutenant general is only a first-degree difference, but it seems like a great difference, like a moat. This time the military base was bombed, and Ross happened to be outside, so he did not need to bear the main responsibility. But Sheldon must be responsible for this. If it is good to just cut his job, it is more likely that he will go to a military court or even be convicted of treason. This is not humorous, it is really possible. What is the problem? Rose hurriedly greeted him, looking at Lieutenant General Shelton, who seemed to be 10 years old for a moment, with an incredible expression on his face. What else? Just like you see. Sheldon grinned helplessly, His smile full of bitterness, let it go to Major General Rose. Soon, the soldier on the side manipulated the computer to show Ross a video. On the screen, it was a woman. What can a woman do? Ever since, holding this idea. In the next 3 minutes, Rose saw everything a woman could do on a military base. He saw a woman facing the muzzle of dozens of soldiers, as if there was an invisible barrier in front of her, and thousands of bullets all stopped in front of her. He also saw that woman, like a beam of light, smashed those planes directly. At the airport? It's a real rampage. And in the end, with a loud noise, everything was over. General Rose was completely silent. This woman, not long ago, he just met. This enemy is not something he can't afford. In the future, don't think about promotion anymore, and rebuild the base safely for me. As for the loss of the base this time, it will be jointly investigated by the military and the government. The military and the government, I hope the two of us will cooperate. Sheldon closed his eyes when he finished speaking, and Rose looked forward, blankly. His life has come to an end. Hydra, I am at odds with you. Rose roared inwardly, without knowing that his enemy, not at all. *32 more when the two generals were still shocked by the women's combat effectiveness. Wonder Woman. Diana had quietly returned to Wayne Manor. Thank you, Diana. After sending Nick Fury into the Bat Base, Li Wei met the culprit of the Ala Akuba incident at the United States Air Force Base in his bedroom. Diana Prince, the second superhero unlocked by Li Wei, is also the first superhero summoned by him. If you want to bomb the United States Air Force Base without being suspected, you need to be 70% true and 3% false. First, someone must sneak into the air base, and then manually detonate the air base. Instead of launching missiles with a stealth aircraft, that would easily arouse military suspicion. Even, will be beaten down. Li Wei will not make such a low-level mistake, so he sent Diana, the Wonder Woman blessed by the Olympus gods. It can be said that even in the Marvel world, Diana's strength is the top group of people. Definitely, among mortals. In fact, at the moment she was drawn, Li Wei was almost ecstatic. However, he was not in a hurry to let Diana show up. After receiving everything from the master, he became a little like to control the overall situation and more like to improve his plan. And Diana is the most important part of the plan. The explosion of the air base put tremendous pressure on the military. Under this pressure, they had to give up the right to reorganize the Strategic Science Corps. On the other hand, they still believe that Hydra really did this thing. And not one or two people, but this terrorist incident planned by a sophisticated Hydra organization. In fact, Diana was the only one from beginning to end. Therefore, Li Wei can quietly retreat from this incident. This task is nothing. Our Amazon warriors are inherently warlike. The heroic female soldier on the battlefield smiled slightly at Li Wei. Perhaps because of being selected by Li Wei, she had a great affection for Li Wei from the beginning. You take a good rest first, and leave the rest to me to take care of. Li Wei nodded, casually said a comforting word, and then walked out of the bedroom. There are some things in a hurry. Although he also wants to open the harem, but sometimes too late, it will arouse the disgust of other girls. Don't look at the theories, he said, but in fact, he just never fell in love. Well, nothing wrong. Diana, who originally had something to say to Li Wei, did not expect that Li Wei would leave so simply. It was incredible. Boss is really a strange person. It's completely different from the men who covet women, as my mother said. Diana blinked, but there were some days when she missed the Amazon Paradise Island. This was actually her first mission to leave the Paradise Island. Li Wei didn't even know. Although Wonder Woman is very strong, she just came out of the mountain. She was teleported to him. Under the arrangement of her mother. A lot of outside knowledge and exchanges were given to her by her mother's teaching. As for Li Wei, this is a special person who her mother took care of. When you see him, you have to respect me more than you do. The words of Hippolyte, Queen of the Amazon, sounded in Diana's ears. She had always followed her mother's words. However, she also has her own mind. For example, understand Li Wei's personality, then, start with this world first. So Diana sat in front of Li Wei's computer and began to browse the world. On the other side, Li Wei was already sitting in the elevator and came to the base on the -3rd floor. Howard has ended the call with Lucius. At the moment, he is studying some technology of the Bat Base. because he needs to verify whether the technology that Li Wei said is 20 years ahead of the world as a whole is true. Oh, goodness. I can't believe it. This is actually true. It turns out that there is such a solution. I never thought of it. Howard constantly made a sound of admiration, while the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, headed by Nick Fury, had nothing to do with embarrassment. At the beginning, they can also visit this base. But then, only numbness awaited them. There is only one sentence left in my heart, looks like a dick, but I don't understand. And Howard's shock from time to time made them feel incompetent. After all, Howard can still be shocked, their uneducated group can only fucking. Definitely, Nick Fury is the most embarrassing one. The other agents are still immersed in the joy of the rest of their lives, because Li Wei never thought of killing them. What's more, their leader Nick Fury will also protect them. In fact, Li Wei deliberately frightened these agents and asked them to be grateful to Nick Fury. After all, if Nick Fury is to be a director, he can't be lonely and fight alone. He must have some subordinates. These men can be incompetent, but they must be loyal. Mr. Li Wei. Nick Fury, who keenly heard the movement of the elevator, turned around. He just saw Li Wei coming out of the elevator and quickly lowered his head and called roar. Director Nick Fury, congratulations. Li Wei smiled and stretched out his hand, and slowly walked to the black man who hadn't reacted to the black question mark. The military has agreed to negotiate with the government. Li Wei saw his incomprehension and explained with a smile, an air base of the military was destroyed, and they no longer have the opportunity to stand on the commanding heights. Therefore, in order to avoid further expansion of the situation, they must cooperate with the government. Negotiation. And the government, although it wants to use this to blackmail the military a lot. Unfortunately, they still have a lot of troubles, and there is no way to embarrass the military before it finishes dealing with internal affairs. So the best way, it means that both sides take a step back and do whatever they want. This time the time started with S.H.I.E.L.D., and it will inevitably end with S.H.I.E.L.D. Therefore, the reorganization of S.H.I.E.L.D. has been put on the agenda. And Nick Fury, you have been put up as a candidate for the position of director by them. Li Wei smiled and snapped his fingers. Congratulations, Mr. Director. Thanks. Nick Fury nodded heavily, but the joy on his face showed that he didn't want the heavy heart he showed. No one will be upset to be a director. He didn't ask how Li Wei knew all of this. For a large consortium like the Wayne Group, there must be 1 or 2 or more members of Congress who belong to their allies. Now that these things have been put on the agenda, it is normal for them to be leaked out. Moreover, they have absolutely no reason to fool themselves. As long as he knows, S.H.I.E.L.D. will be Li Wei's from today. He is just a director, and just a director. Nick is quite self-aware. He knows what he should and shouldn't do. After all, his life was saved by Li Wei. To whom is it not to die? Besides, Li Wei, the boss, is much better than he thought. Nick is willing to work for Li Wei. So, have you chosen the address of the new S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters? Li Wei asked suddenly. Forward. Suddenly, Nick Fury was embarrassed again. Because, according to his intention, the headquarters of S.H.I.E.L.D. was rebuilt on the original site. But listening to the meaning of Li Wei's words, it is obviously not like that. Since you haven't chosen it yet, let me choose it for you. As if he had expected it, Li Wei smiled happily, and pointed to the New York map on the wall that was already ready for Nick Fury and others to choose a location. Washington area. Nick Fury frowned slightly, surprised. Yes. It's Washington District. Li Wei said with a smile. Nick shrugged suddenly. I have no objection, boss. That's it. At that time, I will move this base of mine directly to it too. Li Wei's eyes looked far away, but his heart was ambitious. Who would have thought that a few days ago, he was really an otaku playing games there? Things, really unpredictable? A smile appeared at the corner of Li Wei's mouth, but there were still 2 threats in front of him. One is his fiancée Captain Marvel. He must be rescued. There is one more. Thanos? Infinite gems. It's time to start collecting. Li Wei looked at Howard, who was constantly amazed. A flash of coldness flashed in his eyes. 33 more Eastern Europe, in an old castle on the outskirts of Sokovia. No one would have thought that this slightly inconspicuous building would be the headquarters of the once famous Hydra organization. Since the defeat of the Nazis in World War II, Hydra's base in the country has also been wiped out. After all, there is also the credit of the captain of the United States. With the death of Red Skull, the entire Hydra fell apart. Some people have penetrated into the United States following the United States government paperclip plan, thus forming the United States Hydra headed by a group of people such as Alexander Pierce. The rest will continue to reorganize Hydra in Europe. This place in Europe has been chaotic since ancient times. Especially in the Middle Ages, you may be a French prince today, and tomorrow you will become the king of the. Because between the countries of the European continent, marriage is almost intricate. Whose king does not have the royal blood of several other countries, so embarrassed. Even if the king is like this, let alone the nobility. The Duke of Strake is the leader of the active Hydra organization. This guy is different from the former Hydra leader Red Skull. Red Skull can only be regarded as a dick turning over, just like Hitler. Therefore, he was initially able to gain Hitler's favor. But Straker is a hereditary nobleman. It is precisely because of this that his family can quickly bring Hydra back to life after the war, and reopen Hydra's base all over the world. The Strake family also moved their homes to Eastern Europe as a result of Sokovia, and established a brand new Hydra headquarters here. It can be said that in the entire European continent, Baron Strucker is almost the uncrowned king. However, at the moment, the uncrowned king is enraged. Shit. Baron Strucker smashed everything in the room frantically, and by the way, a blue and white porcelain obtained from the Celestial Dynasty was smashed with a hammer. The waste of Pierce actually caused the entire Hydra to be uprooted. Why didn't he die? He is dead. The little brother on the side replied cautiously. In fact, Mr. Pierce was the fastest to die. The moment Hydra was exposed, he had already paid the price of his life for it. Waste. Baron Strucker's face is very ugly. The recent situation of this Hydra in Europe is not good. Because according to the original plan, their European Hydra is responsible for attracting local firepower. In the United States, Hydra is responsible for infiltration. Once the United States is completely infiltrated, they can use this to initiate the Third World War and achieve their ambition to rule the world. However, now the Hydra of the United States is all exposed. Moreover, it was almost uprooted by people overnight, and the rest of the people could not become the climate at all. And their European Hydra is completely alone. Who did it? Baron Strucker's face was pale, his voice low but full of anger. I must make him pay. The younger brother on the side hurriedly handed the information he had prepared in the morning to Straker, and explained in a low voice, this person is called Li Wei, the owner of the Wayne Group. This time we will be exposed because he leaked it. Secret. Also, he killed Mr. Pierce with his own hands. Wayne Group. Straker frowned slightly, but then he didn't care, and said coldly, no matter who he is, he must be done. I don't care about the others, but I want him to die. But, sir, the little brother on the side hesitated to speak, and after obtaining Straker's consent, he said, this Li Wei seems to be very strong. Crossbones Rumlow, Mr. Pierce's right hand man, sparred with him and was interrupted. The corners of Strack's mouth twitched slightly, and Rumlow, he definitely knew, one of the strongest special forces in the world. But this Li Wei can actually put him on the ground. Doesn't it mean that this is another captain of the United States? Roar. Baron Strucker took a deep breath and said helplessly, how about the two subjects? Ability is not stable yet, and may run away at any time. If you let them go, I'm afraid. His men hesitated to speak but stopped. Never mind. Baron Strucker waved his hand. The twin siblings were sent out at this time, and no one knew the consequences. After all, they are just guinea pigs. Then send the Winter Soldier to kill him. He is really helpless. Today's Hydra is still in the dormant stage. At the end of the 1980s, they have no combat power at all. During World War II, there was still Tesseract anyway. But now, Tesseract is taken away by the United States. 2 years later, they will send Winter Soldier to assassinate Iron Man's daddy Howard Stark, and take away his modified super soldier serum. In addition, an elite death squad was created. And this elite death squad is stronger than Winter Soldier. And 20 years later, they will use the scepter used by Loki to do Superman experiments when aliens invade. and create the super ability of twins Petro Maximov and Wanda Maximov. Yes, they are Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, the two test items Baron Strucker just mentioned. However, these powerful combat powers are either the past or the future. But today's Hydra has nothing. They have nothing but a winter soldier that hasn't changed for thousands of years. No, it's not enough. Baron Strucker's face was blue, and he said coldly, "What's going on in the Red Room? Pierce is responsible for infiltrating the United States, and Straker is not far behind. He is responsible for infiltrating another superpower, the Soviet Union. The Red Room is an organization established by Hydra in cooperation with the Soviet Union to train super agents. The Soviets thought that the agents trained by the Red Room were loyal to the Soviet Union, but they did not know that most of the agents that came out of it were loyal to Hydra. The third phase of the Red Room agent is still training." The younger brother on the side paused and reminded, "However, Eastern Europe has not been peaceful recently, and the Soviets are now overwhelmed by themselves. The training in the Red Room may be over here." 1989 is undoubtedly a day worthy of attention, because it was this year that opened the end of Eastern European socialism, and it was also the initial cause of the disintegration of the Soviet Union 2 years later. The Soviets nowadays are so busy themselves, not to mention a Red Room for cultivating agents. I'm afraid, at the moment has been forgotten. Then get everyone back. Not surprisingly, Baron Strucker said indifferently, "Also, send a team to the United States and let them cooperate with Winter Soldier to assassinate that Li Wei. Also, how are the female spies carefully crafted by the Red Room?" Hearing Strack's question, the younger brother quickly replied, "The female spy test product is currently in a relatively stable state, and the experiment has basically been successful. However, although the super soldier serum we developed eliminated the original side effects, the effect was also weakened by most. Although it is a super soldier serum, even after the injection of the serum, the physical fitness of the test product has only reached the level of some top special forces, and it is not enough to serve as the name of the super soldier serum. Then it doesn't matter. Anyway, it's a failure, so send her out." Baron Strucker's tone was cold, and after speaking, he put on his coat, closed the door, and went out. As if this base has never appeared before. *34 more. It has been 3 full months since the government and the military agreed to reunify the SHIELD. The headquarters building in Manhattan, New York. The United States was bombed, but in 3 months, time has faded away. Someone has quickly cleared it up, leaving a lot of ruins. The new S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters is located on an island in the Potomac River in Washington, D.C. In these 3 months, neither the government nor the military came to make trouble. Because although the Hydra incident has passed, the storm has not yet subsided. They are also constantly investigating some potential Hydra lurking personnel in the system to ensure that the United States will not happen again. This time only an agent organization was infiltrated. Next time, if both the and the President of the United States are completely infiltrated, then the United States will really be over. Mr. Stark, how is the research going? Li Wei took the elevator to his bat base and walked all the way to Howard's laboratory. This is a separate laboratory specially prepared for him, and it is not just him, Lucius is also here. The spacecraft is of great importance, and Li Wei attaches great importance to it. Not even the company's business, just do this. Not yet? Howard shook his head helplessly and sighed, although we have some guesses, we don't have the corresponding experimental conditions. How to say? Li Wei frowned slightly and asked. For the several ways you talk about interstellar travel, I think they are all possible. I have to say that you are truly a genius. Howard first admired Li Wei, and there was no compliment, it was completely sincere. But then he shook his head again. However, although your technology is leading the world for more than 2 decades. However, the alloy material still does not meet the requirements of interstellar travel. Whether it is bending speed or transition, all have extremely high requirements on the strength of the alloy. In the Marvel world, there are 4 ways of interstellar travel. The first one is the most convenient and powerful one. Use Space Gem to open the space door directly. Avengers uses this method. The second type is the Einstein-Rosen bridge. This technology is unique to Asgard, which is Bifrost. Can use Bifrost to instantly reach any corner of the universe. The third type is hyperspace jumping. Hyperspace jumps are different from jumps, because hyperspace jumps must pass through pre-established jump points in the universe, and then move between the two jump points. But if there is no jumping point, then you can only fly in the universe. The so-called jumping points should be wormholes or artificial wormholes. The transition that Howard is studying is different. The transition is through entering the subspace, and then from any point to another, instantaneously, and does not need to pass through a specific jumping point. Definitely, the transition has only a theoretical basis and has not been practiced. At the very least, there is no such way of interstellar travel in the Marvel Universe. The fourth type, the most scientific one, is the speed of war, that is, the superlight speed engine. The warp engine is compressed by space, the space behind expands, and the space in front is pulled back. In fact, the nature of the warp engine is still space distortion. However, the technology of the speed engine so far is only owned by Xingju's father, the Celestial Clan. Oh, the first generation of Captain Marvel, that is, Marvel, Carol Danvers' predecessor, has also invented the superlight speed engine, but the engine hideout is now Carol Danvers, Li Wei's fiancé. Captain Marvel knows. Moreover, she lost her memory. It's really contradictory. Li Wei smiled bitterly. The person he was going to save knew the method of cosmic transition, but he was still studying hard. Why didn't you tell me the address before leaving? Li Wei was a little depressed. Most races in the universe have used hyperspace jump technology so far. Relatively speaking, it is actually a little behind. This superlight speed engine is a big killer for space travel. However, although the transition and speed are high-tech that most races in the universe have never had, but the Stark family is worthy of being a family cursed by wisdom. A few decades ago, Stark had already proposed the concept of a maglev car. But now, Li Wei just mentioned the method of interstellar travel that he once knew might be the method of interstellar travel. Howard, this guy actually confirmed it directly, and he is about to build it. Worthy of being the father of Iron Man. This ability is far more than Iron Man shit. That's why Li Wei hates such smart people, and is mad with jealousy. Just put forward a theory, but the other party was able to turn it into reality. This Timos is too exaggerated. Materials, on the Earth, it is not yet possible to produce alloys that travel through the universe. Howard put on a posture that a clever woman could hardly cook without rice. In fact, this is indeed the case. There is strength, there are methods, but it's useless. Just like later generations of mobile phones, the battery severely restricts the performance of the mobile phone. This is a material problem. If you have the technology, you can't reach the basic foundation. However, fortunately, the dimension in which Li Wei is located is the world of Marvel. And in this world, there happens to be a special kind of metal, just. Li Wei knows the location of this metal. So the material problem is not big. Li Wei thought for a while and asked, if it's vibranium, it should be okay. Vibranium, also known as Nirvana steel, is a meteorite from the sky. It is a specialty resource of Wakanda, an African country, and one of the hardest materials in the Marvel Universe. The shield of the Captain of the United States and Black Panther's battlesuit and claws are all made with this thing. Vibranium. Oh no, Howard obviously knew this too, after all. The shield of the Captain of the United States was built by him and Dr. Malone McLean together. But, although this thing is okay, building a spaceship is a bit extravagant. Lee, with all due respect, in this world, there is no vibranium stock for a spaceship cabin at all, let alone a spaceship. Howard said bitterly, but Li Wei smiled, that, not necessarily. *35 more Howard was stunned, and then some reaction came over, shook his head desperately there and said, impossible. Vibranium can, because of its characteristics, it is determined that it is definitely the best metal for interstellar travel, at least on Earth. If vibranium can be used to build a spacecraft, the defense is absolutely guaranteed. However, Wakanda will not agree. Howard knew Li Wei's ambitions. He didn't expect that Li Wei also knew Wakanda. After all, this is an isolated place. The young man in front of him really knew a lot of high-level secrets. However, Wakanda is not an ordinary place. Wakanda people take vibranium as their life. Howard smiled helplessly. What is the concept of building a spaceship with vibranium? Wakanda's vibranium content is only 10,000 tons, even if it is more, it is impossible to double. And to build a spacecraft according to Li Wei's requirements, I am afraid that Wakanda's vibranium will be used up by 1/10. If this is the case, then Wakanda doesn't have to fight him hard to see the ghost. Even if it is to build a smaller spaceship, at least dozens of tons of vibranium are needed. They will agree. Li Wei is decisive. Disagree? Then call. Until they agree? Now I am not strong enough, but how many more? Li Wei is confident in breaking Wakanda. Isn't it the hometown of Black Panther? 10,000 Black Panthers can be worth a punch? So Li Wei is not worried at all. But Howard felt that the boy brother in front of him was a bit too rampant. This is a place where people in the United States dare not move. He has also heard of Wakanda's technology. This is a super forbidden area, and most people don't dare to touch it at all. However, sir, if the materials are not available, our research may be put on hold for a while. Howard paused and said slowly, in theory, we can already reach the basis of interstellar travel, but if there is no way to conduct experiments, it is still difficult to determine. I see. Li Wei nodded slightly. He definitely knew the difficulty of interstellar travel. The means of interstellar travel alone is not considered, but also coordinates. If there are no coordinates and the universe is so big, how can you find your goal if you fly everywhere? Fortunately, Li Wei still has goals. Hera in the Large Magellanic Cloud. However, just knowing this is not enough. There are hundreds of billions of planets in the Large Magellanic Cloud. God knows which is Hera, so even if he has the heart, he can only wait patiently. The study of interstellar travel has been put on hold for now, and we will talk about it when vibranium's materials are in place. Li Wei shook his head slightly, but he couldn't help being covered with a haze in his heart. Calculated according to the timeline, it will be years before my fiancé will return to Earth. If you can't work out the method of interstellar travel before then, and find out the exact location of Hera Star, then everything I did was in vain. It stands to reason that since Carol will eventually return to Earth, it doesn't make any sense for him to do this. However, perhaps it is the man's self-esteem that is at work. Rather than Carol fleeing back to Earth, he wants to pick Carol back personally. I want her to see that my fiancé is definitely not a waste. Definitely, just think about it now. Then, how's the research on the super soldier serum? Li Wei put these thoughts behind for a while, then looked at Howard and asked. Soon. Upon hearing Li Wei's question, Howard's face was a little sad, and he suddenly became excited. I have found a way to fix the side effects of the serum. Now a new batch of serum has been created and the side effects are being adjusted. Think, this time there shouldn't be any problems. Oh, this is really good news. This super soldier serum is also useful for Li Wei. When the test is over, I will have someone send you the latest batch. The results should already be available, either tomorrow or the day after. Tomorrow. Howard is obviously confident about the super soldier serum. After all, he was also one of the people involved in the production. This super soldier serum was developed by Dr. Abraham Erskine during World War II. The first generation of super soldier serum was not perfect, so as the first person to eat crabs, Red Skull's face became a skeleton. The improved super soldier serum can barely be called the second generation. The person who injects it will no longer turn into a skull face, but the side effects still exist. The side effect of super soldier serum is to make good people better and bad people worse. So, this is uncertain. There are good and bad in everyone's heart. Some people think that they are good people, but they may also be bad people. Some people think that they are bad people, but they are really bad people. Because of this side effect, Abraham feared that the military would use the super soldier serum to create the super soldier core in their minds. In this way, the world will inevitably be in chaos. Therefore, he severely burned his research materials. However, for decades, countries around the world have never given up on researching new super soldier serums. The military and the government are not far behind. In today's world, the only person who can develop a super soldier serum is Howard. He has improved the super soldier serum again, which can be called the third generation. The third generation super soldier serum no longer has unexecuted. The original side effect is to make good people better and bad people worse. But the super soldier serum that Howard studied no longer has such unknown side effects that vary from person to person, because its side effects are fixed. That is, let the person who injects become violent. Although it sounds like it is going in a bad direction, it is indeed a great improvement. The second generation super soldier serum has to be different from person to person, and a really good person must be selected for injection. But in the third generation, the side effects of injection are the same for anyone. Although it can make people violent, once the side effects are fixed, there are ways to eliminate them. Moreover, it just makes people become violent, which is not a big deal. The third generation will not make good people better or bad people worse, it just makes people more violent and irritable. If it is a person with sufficient control, it can weaken or even ignore such side effects. Therefore, Howard's research progress is absolutely unprecedented. However, before Howard eliminated this side effect and conducted human experiments, Li Wei still did not dare to inject. He has always been insensitive to this kind of uncertainty. Howard is still continuing his own research, and Lucius has gone from being a dominant position at the beginning to being a layman for Howard. Nick Fury is busy reorganizing S.H.I.E.L.D, while Li Wei is waiting for the serum to be born. He can't wait to get an injection. After drawing out Wonder Woman, he became more and more eager to improve his strengths. However, it is in a corner that no one knows. An elite team dispatched by Hydra is lurking somewhere in Los Angeles. Asterisk 14/11, 6:38 p.m. Sondor, 36 more Malibu, southwest of Los Angeles, is a paradise for the rich. Countless rich people flock to buy a piece of land here and build their own villas. Because the land of the United States is different from other countries, because the United States government only owns 32% of the country's land, and the other land is privately owned and can be bought with money. However, at the moment, in a villa not far from Wayne Manor, there is a group of people who are incompatible with the title of rich. There are 7 people in this group, 5 men and 2 women. 6 of them are all muscular madmen, with muscle knots all over, even majestic, which is daunting. And on the table in front of them, there are a lot of arms. Mk-19 grenade launcher, M4A1 carbine, MP5 submachine gun, M136-4 rocket launcher. There is a copy of almost any weapon imaginable. What's more, there is a big killer anti-material sniper rifle, the most powerful sniper rifle in the world, Barrett M82A1. All kinds of grenades, flash bombs, and smoke bombs are countless. At the moment, 6 of them, including 1 female, are fully armed, constantly fiddling with the weapons in front of them. There is no doubt that they are about to carry out a terrorist attack. Originally they wanted to assassinate, but then to be on the safe side, they said that the assassination turned into a terrorist attack. After all, unarmed combat Li Wei did not lose to them. In order to be foolproof, it is better to use a gun as expected. Not only that, 2 kilometers away, there are also 3 armed helicopters parked. The rocket loaded on it was enough for them to ensure that the villa in Wayne Manor was blown up. Although it is a squad of the same camp, the 7 are clearly divided into 3 parts. A long-haired man with a metal left arm sat quietly on the sofa. He did not adjust his weapon, but was constantly groping with his left arm, like a pervert. Bucky Barnes, the former best friend of the Captain of the United States, but now he has a new name, Roar Winter Soldier? Winter Soldier? Trained by Hydra to brainwash and become a super agent who only loyal to Hydra. On the other side, a 5-person team of 4 men and 1 woman is very professional and careful, checking their own weapons. The last thing left was a girl who seemed incompatible with these 6 muscular men. The girl looks only 13 or 14 years old, with long reddish-brown hair, wearing a leather tights, and her exquisite curves are exquisite. She did not choose a large weapon like everyone else, but took 2 Colt M1911 and 2 daggers. Then he squatted quietly in the corner and said nothing. The whole person is like a frightened bunny, crouching on the corner with his knees, head buried in the middle of his thighs. The girl's petite appearance is incompatible with the 6 devil muscles. But in fact, when it comes to physical fitness, she is no weaker than others. Because she is the failed experiment in Straxword's Black Widow, Natasha Romanoff? In fact, even for the failed experiment, she was the only one among dozens of children who survived. The agents trained in the Red Room are all children under 10 years old, because only children can better brainwash. For adults, the 3 views have taken shape and it is difficult to brainwash and control. For children, even a weakened version of the super soldier serum is not something they can bear. Therefore, Many people died in the experiment. Only she survived, but even so, the effect of super soldier serum was not satisfactory. So, she was sent to perform the task. Except for Winter Soldier Bucky's physical fitness far beyond ordinary people, the other 6 people are not far behind. The difference between the girl and them is only experience. Winter Soldier is a super soldier, and the girl is a guinea pig. Only these 5 people are relatively normal people, but they are also relatively normal. They are all killers with the most kills in Hydra history, proficient in 30 languages and hundreds of assassination methods. Infiltration, assassination, they even destroyed a small country overnight. They are Hydra's best killers. At the moment, Hydra's strongest group of combat power is only gathered for one person. Hey, you, don't need to fight this time. A guy who looked like a leader suddenly spoke to Natasha Romanoff in the corner. Why? Natasha Romanoff raised her head, with some questions in her eyes. Although she is a test subject, she is a normal human being, and, originally she is not weak. She was not afraid of the 5 people in front of her at all, even somewhat disdainful. Except for the guy with the special arm, she couldn't see through. Natasha Romanoff was confident that he could knock down the 5 people in front of him in an instant. This is the rule above. Let you get in touch with this guy named Li Wei in advance. Then, tell us the information. The leader looked at Natasha Romanoff condescendingly. Natasha Romanoff showed an extremely humane expression and nodded slightly. Okay, it means I act first. Yes, but you only have 3 days. If we don't get your answer within 3 days, we will take action directly, because that shows that you failed, the leader said without emotion. Natasha Romanoff has obviously gotten used to it, and nodded slightly. I see. After speaking, she tidied up her things and walked out without looking back. One of the subordinates couldn't help asking the leader, Head, just let her go like this. Can you? Definitely, if she doesn't want to die, she doesn't need to come back. A cruel sharp light flashed in the eyes of the leader, and several of his men suddenly shrank, and they all clearly understood the identity of Natasha Romanoff. The test product is just an object. Okay, take a rest, recharge your energy, and in 3 days at the latest, we have to do it. This time, we must get rid of this guy. The leader was there talking, but his eyes were fixed on the Winter Soldier in the corner. This time, their strongest support was this guy. Asterisk 37 More Wayne Manor. The next day, in the morning. Pretty girls, hurry up, the young master has a bad temper. We have to make sure that after he wakes up, he can see an unusually clean environment. The personal housekeeper Alfred Pennyworth clapped his hands there, and in front of him was a bunch of hourly workers he had just hired to take care of the cleaning of Wayne Manor. Such a large manor cannot be handled by him alone. As for the fully automatic cleaning robot, sorry, it hasn't been invented yet. Black Widow Natasha Romanoff was among these people, and she secretly observed the terrain of Wayne Manor. Hi, Bobo, have you recruited some child labor again? Alfred pointed to Natasha Romanoff, who looked a little immature in the crowd. It looks like he hasn't grown up yet. No, it's an adult, sir. The head of the hourly worker, Uncle Bo, said respectfully. He didn't dare to offend the old man in front of him. He was angry, but it was quite terrifying. Hee, you can't fool my eyes, the old man. Alfred looked at Natasha Romanoff with interest and smiled slightly. When did she come? This. Uncle was a little embarrassed. In fact, Natasha Romanoff was a black house. His boss found it accidentally outside the door yesterday, and he was about to starve to death. Strangers, you can't enter Wayne Manor. This is the rule. Alfred, who was born in the Military Intelligence Division 6 of Ying State, squinted and patted Uncle's shoulder. Uncle's face suddenly stiffened there, and then hurriedly said, Sir, I was wrong. I immediately asked her to return to the company. Forget it. Let's not take it as an example. Alfred waved his hand faintly, then turned around and walked towards the manor, but the old housekeeper's voice came from Uncle's ear. Remember, let her go, clean the basement. Yes. Uncle nodded hurriedly, watching Alfred walk away, and Roar could not help but let out a sigh of relief. The butler of this manor is really a terrible guy. Even if I face it many times, it is very stressful. Natasha Romanoff, you come with me. Uncle shouted to Natasha Romanoff, who was cute and curious on the side. Follow me to the basement. Your task today is to clean the place. Remember, it must be clean and spotless. Do you know? Uncle looked at the new employee severely, and Natasha Romanoff replied timidly, yes, sir. Go, remember to follow me. This manor, you can't just walk around. Uncle walked into the manor well, and Natasha Romanoff followed obediently. Alfred, the butler hiding in the shadows, watched the two enter the manor, with a secret smile on his face. This underage girl, the elite agent cultivated since childhood, master, should like it. Right. Go in, never come out again. It just so happens that the young master still lacks a few female assistants. Oracle and the girl are not there. The young master should be very lonely, right? The old housekeeper thought very intimately. Natasha Romanoff didn't even know she herself had been exposed. Under the gaze of a veteran agent, the same kind, are destined to be invisible. What's more, he is Batman's butler. He once had a code named Detective Paniwa. His IQ is as high as Sherlock Holmes. No detail can be hidden from the sharp eyes of the old butler. Therefore, the first mission of Black Widow failed. The Winter Soldier and his party waited all day without any news, and all the messages sent to Natasha Romanoff went straight to the sea. Can't wait any longer. Night, action. The temporary leader of Hydra in charge of the attack gritted his teeth, feeling a little uneasy in his heart. Yes. A group of men immediately began to pack and prepare things. The Winter Soldier, who had been sitting there like a statue, also showed a humane side for the first time. He also began to equip some guns. Time passed by every minute, and soon it was night. As dusk approached, the night fell quietly, covering the earth. Even the moon seems to have felt something, hiding herself deeply in the dark clouds, as if stingy and unwilling to show a ray of light. The sky was pitch black, and people didn't have the mood to watch the moon at all. At the top of the sea cliff villa, Li Wei shook his head with a pity. It looks like it's going to rain. It's impossible to watch the moon. He actually didn't want to admire the moon, or that he had never had the habit of admiring the moon. Rather, he prefers such a dark night with high winds. He didn't think the moon had anything to look at when he watched the moon. Because the moon is not even the so-called luminescence of its own, it is only the refracted light of the sun. The reason why I came to the roof was only because Wonder Woman Diana thought. The sea breeze blew the hair around the girl's ears, revealing the girl's stunning face with a little disappointment. Beautiful people are beautiful even if they are angry, and so are disappointments. What's wrong? Li Wei stood up, his straight legs set off his slender figure. His charming temperament was more prominent in the night, and his voice seemed to have a touch of pleasing magnetism. Diana, your mood is wrong, homesick. Li Wei frowned, and he couldn't help but cast a shadow in his heart. Although the mobile phone showed 100% allegiance to the drawn heroes, human nature is always fickle. He didn't believe what the machine said, not to mention Wonder Woman, the first hero he summoned. Except for the lottery, the Batman mobile phone is usually the same as a normal mobile phone. It's not even as good as a normal cell phone, because the Batman cell phone can't even make calls. Therefore, he also couldn't know whether Diana, who was extracted by himself, had any memories of the past. You know, the Wonder Woman Diana in the DC world is a lover of family. She is the Princess of Paradise Island, the illegitimate daughter of the King of God Zeus in Greece and Hippolyte, Queen of the Amazon, and has a demigod bloodline. Even if she goes to the human world, she becomes a superhero. However, she still has the dream of protecting her homeland, Paradise Island. If she still has a complete memory, Li Wei cannot guarantee that she will not betray because of homesickness. After all, Paradise Island is really an unstable factor. There is no such place in the Marvel world. Mother said that the place where there is a boss is my home. However, I do miss Paradise Island a bit. Wonder Woman showed a rare girlish side, but she soon regained her perseverance and heroic spirit. I know this is an experience for me. Outside of Paradise Island, my mother said, everything is obeyed by the boss. Commanded. So, Li Wei has some idea. This so-called loyalty seems to be the information her mother implanted in her. Hippolyte, this is the 13th queen of the Paradise Island Amazon. She is everything to Wonder Woman. So what she said is obviously equivalent to the Imperial Edict. Then she, did you tell me my identity? Li Wei smiled and asked without a trace. Asterisk 38 more. Diana tilted her head and asked Li Wei a little strangely, but she still replied, you are the god who walked out of our Paradise Island, responsible for the earthly experience of the Amazon warriors on Paradise Island. Li Wei was a little shocked by this identity. Is it possible that this world also has a Paradise Island? Does that mean that this is a universe where DC and Marvel integrate? Wrong. If I didn't summon Batman, then obviously there would be no Gotham City, nor Wayne Manor, could it? Li Wei thought of a possibility. Every time a DC hero is activated, this world integrates a part of DC's universe. This world is constantly changing. Li Wei came up with a fact that shocked him a bit. However, this is a good thing for him. If there are soldiers from Paradise Island, his own combat power will become extremely terrifying. This is a demigod, and the Wonder Woman in front of her is the key to her own rule over Paradise Island. So, do you know the Justice League? Li Wei asked softly. Remember Superman? Justice League? Superman. Diana looked a little confused, a little distressed, frowned, and said, "What is that? Is it a friend of the boss?" "No, it's nothing." Li Wei shook his head lightly, his heart settled, and a relaxed smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Sure enough, the Batman phone is not useless. At the very least, the heroes drawn are almost core and white. Their memories will not be tampered with, but they are in their initial state. In other words, the current Wonder Woman just came out of Paradise Island. So, it also means that these heroes have no instability factors enough to guarantee their 100% loyalty. Moreover, the title of this boss, it feels the same as playing a certain card game? Don't say it. The aperture of the Batman mobile phone lottery draw was full of sight. However, at the moment, I were still on the roof, and my two did not notice that under the villa, an armed force composed of dozens of people was marching towards the villa. The gunship has not taken off yet, because once the helicopter takes off, the propeller will make huge amounts of noise. In that case, it is tantamount to telling the other party that they are going to do something. Therefore, you have to wait for the ground forces to be in place first. Although Diana has a super perception, she is not always nervous. What's more, these crises are not towards her, but towards Li Wei. Once there is any malicious behavior, Diana will be aware of it. But if it wasn't against her, but it was accompanied by it, then she would not be so easy to detect before the real threat. Therefore, neither of them noticed. "Master." Butler Alfred's voice came from inside the house. "Howard's third-generation super soldier serum has been developed, and the side effects this time are so small that you can ignore it." "Oh, is it finally developed? This is a good thing." "Diana, I'm going to do some personal affairs. Here. I'll leave it to you." Li Wei and Diana waved their hands, and Diana returned with a pretty confident smile. "I swear as an Amazon warrior, I will protect your home." Li Wei hurried to the R&D room downstairs, and Howard and Lucius looked very excited. "Oh, my goodness, I didn't expect Howard you could develop this genetic medicine." Lucius was really surprised. For a long time, his way of research has been to arm the body with science and technology. He has never thought of activating human genes to transform the body, so he was a little crazy about the birth of the super soldier serum. It seems to have opened the door to a new world for him. "No, this serum is not my credit, it's the plan and idea your boss gave me. I just made some changes based on him." It can be seen that Howard is also a little complacent. After all, he is quite proud of being able to develop a non-destructive version of the super soldier serum in such a fast time. What's more, he has already produced a test product. When Li Wei came downstairs, he happened to see an unusually burly muscular man standing there, with a muscle explosion even more than Captain America. The whole person is full of extremely powerful deterrence. It is simply the max version of Captain America. This third-generation super soldier serum seems to be very effective, at least from the appearance. This muscular man is stronger than Captain America. "Li, come and take a look." Seeing Li Wei come down, Howard walked to Li Wei's face invitingly and pointed to the remaining 5 super soldier serums placed on the table. This time he did a total of 6 doses, and used 1 in the test, so there are 5 left. "Well, I saw it. How did it work?" Li Wei looked at the muscular man. Alfred walked over and introduced, "Master, this is the third-generation Robin, Tim Drake, who has just been selected from the training camp and became the Noah batch of test products." "Master." Robin Drake bowed respectfully to Li Wei. A guy who was originally a more delicate person in the original book, now has a 180-degree change. Robin, Batman's best partner and assistant. The first and second generations have become DC superhero, and Tim Drake in front of him is the third generation of Robin. Since childhood, his parents have died and he has been living on the funding of Wayne Group. In the original work, he also appeared next to Batman in 1989, and the timeline is exactly the same. It's just that Drake, after being injected with genetic medicine, is much stronger than in the original work. In the original book, Tim does not have any super ability, but he is an excellent fighter and weapon user. He has mastered many unarmed combat methods, including leopard boxing, French kickboxing, judo, capoeira, a Brazilian jiu-jitsu, karate, dragon boxing, and whipstick, as well as escape and stealth. Also, the intelligence of that day's talent. Not only an outstanding detective, but also a highly skilled programmer and hacker, he also has a deep understanding of natural science and behavioral science, so he is very knowledgeable and literary. Very good. Li Wei is quite satisfied with Robin's strengthening, which means that he has another powerful fighter, and he is a stronger guy than Captain America. Lucius, build some useful weapons for this new assistant of mine. Li Wei gave an order, and then pointed to the 5 remaining soldier serums on the table. Alfred, take it to the bedroom for me, and I will come later. Howard couldn't help but was taken aback. Lee, are you going to inject all of them? Ordinary people can only bear the equivalent of a super soldier serum at most. This is the limit. Howard kindly reminded him, but Li Wei smiled indifferently. Your Excellency Howard, your partner, I not an ordinary person. Asterisk 39 more after dropping this sentence, Li Wei walked into the elevator. Alfred took the remaining 5 super soldier serums and went upstairs. Howard looked at Li Wei upstairs in disbelief, and said to Lucas, "Oh, my buddy, what did I hear just now?" "Dr. Howard, you heard that right. My boss is indeed not an ordinary person. He is Batman, a superpower with the limits of humanity. Ordinary people may have the limit to inject a super soldier serum, but for him, it is estimated that they can inject 2 to 3. Therefore, Lucas seemed very relieved. Shit. Your boss is really a crazy guy. I don't dare to inject this kind of damn thing into myself. I still like to be an ordinary person. Howard shrugged, and Lucas smiled at him. Next, shall we continue to study serum or try new things, such as what you said? Arc reactor, and what I said mechanical body. Man, you really know me too well. What are you waiting for? Howard's eyes lighted up, and he felt that the guy beside him was the best partner with himself. The efficiency of 2 people has increased by 200%. Upstairs, Tim, who has just become the 3rd generation Robin, guards the door. This was ordered by the butler Alfred. After all, Li Wei is going to inject the super soldier serum to strengthen himself. What's wrong with him? Tim may find out immediately. It has always been Robin's duty to protect Batman's safety. Inside the room, Li Wei held a blue super soldier serum in his hand, observing there, but his eyes were full of longing. This thing can enhance the user's metabolic function and all body functions, and the brain usage rate is 100%, reaching the peak of human potential. Since my body has reached the peak of humanity, I will definitely be able to break through after the injection. Then, after the breakthrough, the body, don't know how many super soldier serum can withstand the dose. Li Wei was thinking there, but the movements in his hands were not slow, and poured the blue 3rd generation non-destructive super soldier serum into a syringe. Howard's modified 3rd generation, unlike the 1st generation of Captain America, only needs to be injected into the body. However, correspondingly, the improvement of the efficacy of the medicine is also slow, unlike Captain America, which can instantly increase its strength to the limit. The injection of the 3rd generation super soldier serum has a slow ascension process, and at the beginning of this process, I must be absolutely still and cannot make any movements. Otherwise, there will be unexpected situations that even Howard doesn't know. Therefore, Li Wei appeared very careful. Let's start. Li Wei and Roar let out a sigh of relief, and then looked at the Wonder Woman who was still sitting outside the window admiring the moon. Feeling relieved the syringe was pierced into his arm by Li Wei, and then his left hand began to slowly push the soldier serum into his body. In this syringe, there are a total of 5 doses, but Li Wei did not inject all of them at once. He only injected 1 dose. He wanted to see how much his body was able to withstand before deciding how many to inject in a while. Anyone who is a little bit thoughtful will choose to be so cautious. But Li Wei never expected that a bunch of enemies he didn't know would be lurking outside. At the moment, a group of people headed by Winter Soldier finally lurked under the villa smoothly. The helicopter took off instantly. Wow, the sound of the propeller is huge amounts of. Not to mention that this 20 kilometers radius is Li Wei's private domain. Therefore, this sudden abnormal noise made Li Wei, who was injecting super soldier serum, suddenly raised his head. How can a helicopter come here for no reason in your own territory? There is no doubt that it is an intruder. Nima, won't you be so unlucky? This thought just came up in Li Wei's mind. The next moment, he saw two bright flares flying towards him in the sky. Missile? My grass. Li Wei, who was about to pull out the syringe in his hand, was also stunned for an instant, and then he subconsciously slumped into the ground. So, these Hydra terrorists are really ruthless? Use the rocket directly to open the road far away, this is to put him to death. Although Li Wei had received Master Batman's physical fitness, he was still incapable of resisting missiles. Therefore, Li Wei fell straight down. Then, a whole tube of 5 super soldier serum dosage syringes were all injected into his arm. In danger, Li Wei has forgotten what he had just injected. So, when he reacted, he was also a little dumbfounded. All the 5 super soldier serums had been injected into the arm, and then in the next second, his consciousness suddenly became nothingness. The 5 super soldier doses and the burst of energy are obviously terrifying. She only heard the roar of Wonder Woman Diana shouting in her ears, "Boss, be careful." With a roar of huge amounts of, Li Wei heard the last sound. The 5 super soldier serum doses of genetic medicine also instantly produced huge amounts of effect in his body. Li Wei's consciousness suddenly became blurred, but his body suddenly exploded with a strong wave of air. Boom! Robin Tim, who was guarding the door, only felt a breath that suffocated him. Fortunately, in the next second, even more earth-shaking sounds and shock waves blew up the night of the entire Wayne base. Daylight. Robin, who was planning to avoid Li Wei's shockwave, subconsciously rushed to the top of the building. Compared with Li Wei indoors, the danger outside the door is greater in Tim's view. That's a missile? Although Tim didn't see it, he had already heard the huge amounts of shocking noise. *40 more whoosh. Dozens of missiles attacked from 3 directions, one after another. The flames of the explosion and the deafening noise never stopped, but under the cover of the missile, a Hydra elite unit under the villa has entered the villa. If it weren't for the terrain near here was too flat, and there were no other commanding heights except for the sea cliff accident, I am afraid that the snipers have been deployed now. Pity the Barrett they prepared, because the terrain restrictions are actually useless. However, no one found out. Even with 3 helicopters, more than 30 missiles bombarded. However, Wayne's base still remained in ruins, even unscathed. Because there was one person who blocked this blow that ruined the world. Kang? The moment Wonder Woman saw the rocket flying towards herself and Li Wei, an extremely bright light burst out of her arms. The Guardian Silver Bracelet is an artifact made by the god Hephaestus using the fragments of the King of Gods Zeus's Aegis, which can protect the wearer from any long-range attacks. After the bracelet collides, it can release a powerful guardian power. Definitely, any so-called remote attack is also limited. But obviously, these missiles are far from reaching the limit that they can break through the defense of the Guardian Silver Bracelet. Drink, Diana chirped, arms crossed, and just when the danger came, she directly launched her strongest move. So rumble, all the missile bombings resounded in the air, illuminating the entire Wayne base transparently and dyeing half of the sky. But it didn't spread to Wayne's base at all, and not even the garden was damaged. The whole Malibu was shocked. What? Help! Countless screams, shouts, and each other's sound, they thought they had suffered a terrorist attack. All this has nothing to do with Wayne base. If someone observes closely, they will find that there is a semicircular membrane-like energy shield in front of Diana, even covering the top of the entire villa. Not only was Diana unscathed, but the villa was all shrouded in this divine light. Buzzing? In the distance, the 3 Apaches that had launched most of the missiles were slowly approaching. But the eyes of several drivers were wide open, and they obviously couldn't believe the scene before them. Damn it! The missile launch that I had prepared for a long time, unexpectedly, didn't even hit the target at all. Instead, It exploded in the air and almost affected them. Damn it, how could it be possible? A driver, with some disbelief, pressed the bombardment button again. Call out a missile bombarded the Wayne base once again. Die to me! The pilot roared there, driving the Apache crazy. Approaching the Wayne base, he wanted to see if the missile shooting this time would work. Then, a fiery sword light suddenly appeared in his sight. What is that? He stared blankly in the air, and then, the fiery red sword light constantly magnified in his sight. A Valkyrie wearing a close-fitting armor, like a god descending to the earth, holding a huge sword in his hand, slashed at the rocket he had just launched. Oh my god! The driver was stunned, his hands suddenly held his head. How could he not believe the picture in front of him? Sword-smashing missiles? He thought he was dreaming. A human being, a woman, actually holding a cold weapon in her hand, slashed towards a missile. Is this a fucking human? He can no longer control why a woman can appear in such a midair. He could only watch, Wonder Woman holding the Vulcan sword in both hands, slashing down towards the missile emitting light in the air. Boom! The huge amounts of fire burst out all over the sky, staining the sky blood again. Under this violent shockwave, the pilot was extremely shocked to discover that the female soldier who had just smashed the missile with a sword rushed out of the missile bombing unscathed. What? Didn't die like this? Oh, God. The driver is a little crazy. He watched Wonder Woman hold a shield in his hand, turned over and killed him. Yes, stepping in midair, like flying. He could only watch it, because he was completely overwhelmed by the scene in front of him. Sneer? A brilliant flaming red sword light, like a curtain that had torn open the night, flashed towards the body of the continuously rotating Apache helicopter. Boom! As if it was something, it slammed into the helicopter, and then the entire Apache hovering there quickly turned around in midair, and then a shockingly huge crack suddenly shot from the helicopter. Out. Sparks flew everywhere, and the sound was harsh. The pilot sat there dumbfounded, turned his head blankly, and found that the tail of the helicopter he was driving had completely disappeared. Behind him, there was a huge opening that was opened, and countless gusts of wind were instilling crazily in him. Apache, the invincible Apache, was directly torn in half by the woman just now, walking sideways along the helicopter. The tail is cut off. With a sword from him, he was directly divided into two. The driver looked up blankly and looked at Wonder Woman floating there in midair. The other person looked at him like a dead man. Boom, 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 boom. The rear part of the helicopter with the tail wing fell to the ground, and there was a violent rubbing sound between the wings and the ground. Then, there is the helicopter head. Is this woman Superman? This is the last confession left by the helicopter pilot in this world. Yes, this woman, not Superman, she is a demigod. Huh? After solving one Apache helicopter, Diana flew towards the other two Apaches. She is angry. Really angry? This group of guys successfully angered the warlike Amazon female warriors, so the result is destined to be self-evident? Star.